So I made my way over to the gap, went to get down onto my knee to go onto my stomach, and there was just a huge explosion. I'll just go back one. If you look at the ground in this picture, there was sand, dust flying everywhere. I couldn't see anything. I could hear guys all around me shouting, screaming, trying to figure out what had happened. And I didn't feel any pain, which initially made me think that I was fine. And I was thinking we'd maybe been hit with a rocket or some sort of mortar bomb, which had hit the ground, exploded, caused this giant sandstorm, which had stopped me being able to see anything. I thought I was okay. Now, my initial reaction was where there was cover. The only place I knew there was cover in a small forestry block was in front of me, directly in front of me, when I went to get down onto my belly. But for whatever reason now, I thought it was behind me. So I was talking to myself in my head. I still couldn't see anything. Everything was, all the sand and dust was up, and it stopped me being able to see anything. And I was talking to myself in my head saying, turn around, see where this came from, and start firing. If I could ID where this came from and start laying down fire, all the other guys in the section would do the same, and then the guy with the big .5 in the camp would come out and just obliterate everything. So I'm trying to turn, and I still can't see anything. There's still a huge cloud of dust and sand in front of me. And something told me in my head that I wasn't moving, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. And then as the dust and the sand settled, I realised what had happened. I looked down to where my legs were, and there was nothing there. Literally from the knee down, the bone was still there, but the flesh, the muscle, and the tissue had been taken off. And then the reality of the situation started to sink in. So I looked around me to see if everyone else was okay, and they had been blasted out of this hole quite some distance. This shallow bowl, what we were in originally, after reading the Americans' report when they cleared the area, was now 12 feet deep by, I think, 15 feet around. So it was quite a big explosion. And I realised, that what I'd done. And what will astound you is, what seems like a lifetime. A lot of stuff goes through your head in a very short space of time. But it seems like a lot longer when you're in that situation. And I've got a daughter who's now 8. And the first thing I thought about was my daughter. Was she going to get picked on when I went back home? When I went to pick her up from school, would the other kids make fun of her? I started thinking, I was 24 years old at the time, and I started thinking somebody's going to be lumbered with me for the rest of their life. And I'm quite an independent person. I didn't want to put that burden on somebody else's life. So literally, this all happened in a space of about 8 or 10 seconds. I made the decision that I wanted to shoot myself. It wasn't something that I wanted to go and live with. So I made that decision, and if I was able to, I think that's what I would have done. But as I looked to the right to get my rifle, I noticed it was about 15 feet away from me, as well as my body armour. Now this stuff is strapped on tight. There's the body armour, and you've got a rifle with a sling on. It's on there real tight, and I couldn't understand why it was 15 feet away from me until I looked back towards my body, and then I saw my arm, which was pretty much from the bicep to the wrist, split open in half. There was no bone in it; it had been shattered completely. And I picked my hand up. My hand was still semi-intact, and just sort of stared at it in disbelief. Dropped it into the sand and just screamed. Not like a girl would scream, like a war cry type scream. Just out of frustration. It's really hard, and I keep saying it's really hard to tell you how many things go through your head in a very quick amount of time in a situation like that. And so, still, I guess, feeling sorry for myself and a bit frustrated, I turned to the section commander, who was a friend of mine that I went through training with. and I asked him to shoot me. I told him I didn't want to go home like this. I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. Obviously he didn't. He's a lot more level-headed than I am. But he then took charge of the situation and kept me calm and kept me responsive and kept me talking.